Welcome to my show. A guest here. Her name is Marilyn Tennant. Mrs. Marilyn, how are you doing, ma?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Mrs. Marilyn. And also, thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. Firstly, you are a completion process practitioner. You are also a spiritual advisor. Can you please, Mrs. Marilyn, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mrs. Marilyn?
During a traumatic experience while growing up, when we're children, usually before the age 8, all of us have underwent some kind of trauma. And that could be as simple as not getting the bubble gum that you wanted at the store that your parents refused to pay for, to the worst trauma that you can think of: war, rape, those things, we think are on the other side of the spectrum. But really, what I find, even when I have clients that have the worst, quote unquote, worst trauma, it really goes back to these simple, little, so to speak, traumatic experiences that we think is not very big. So when I go into a meditation process with a client, we find that even though they went through, for example, seeing their brother be murdered. Okay, let's just put that as an example. We find that they had it's a sense of disempowerment, and that they had that theme throughout their whole life. So maybe there was the first time they felt that way was when they had a parent who, they witnessed hurting another, and they couldn't do anything about it. And so there's these common themes that get played out throughout our whole lives from that original trauma. So what I do is I try to go back, and we try to find the first time this happened, and we give that child, through guided meditation, what it is that they need. So if it is a sense of empowerment, we give them, through guided meditation, and I'm using all the senses, so sound, touch, sight, everything, so that they can re-experience this sense of relief in that original trauma. So it does require going back into the memory so that we can find relief for that person. And it seems to help. I get a lot of positive feedback through this process.
Sincerely appreciate your feedback. Sometimes in life, our life is just like a reflection. And being a reflection is in terms of when someone have a very terrible experience, like a trauma. And no matter the type of trauma or regarding the perspective, it always gave a reflection of who that person is going to be and how the person is going to view the world. And bringing in a process whereby one can use to actually develop themselves, heal themselves, and also become more brighter and more stronger to recover from such situation is very powerful, very essential because the world we are now is really, really pressured as well as we do know. And having this process is one of the most important thing that can help us to develop and also become more better as well. I would also like to drive to any book in regards to the work you do now with the process practitioner. Have you written any book or are you planning to write any book in the coming future, Mrs. Marilyn?
Oh, that is a good question. I thought about writing a book. I'm definitely not in the works of that. But what I would say, if anybody wants to learn about trauma, I would definitely recommend The Body Keeps the Score. The Body Keeps the Score is a book all about trauma, but it brings it in a new light that we might not have heard of. And it talks about how when we undergo a trauma, it actually gets stored in our body, and our body remembers these things. And through that actual somatic experience of the trauma, we feel the same thing as we go through the world, and we may not even know it. It can be in our subconscious, but it can manifest in diseases. So you may see a lot of people with digestion issues, and that has a lot to do with having trouble literally digesting what they're taking in the world. Um, we may see somebody with headaches. Children get headaches. Sometimes they even get bloody noses. And it's all our body's way of saying, I need attention. If pain of any sort is just an acronym for pay attention, integrate now. So if you're experiencing pain, what I do is I go with the client and have them tell me what that pain wants. We go into the pain and actually speak to it like it's another entity. And what is it trying to tell you? Is it trying to tell you need more rest? Is it trying to tell you that you need more exercise? Is it trying to tell you that you need more love in a certain part of your life? They always have a message. Pain is always just a messenger, and we can work with it. The problem is, in conventional medicine, we like to numb the pain, and that's actually really counterproductive because we won't get anywhere in life if we can't feel what is actually causing us pain. So it can be very counterproductive to fall into that. I know that there are some times when we need pain medication, that's obvious, but when it becomes a crutch, a lifelong crutch, it can be really counterproductive to your growth and manifesting what it is that you need in life.
Completely agree with you, and I sincerely appreciate the recommendation you brought in, despite not even currently planning to write a book. You brought in a very powerful recommendation as well, and we also need to try our best, despite the position or the situation we find. We should find a source for us to become more stronger, and also find a process whereby we can heal and also become more better as well. And that is why I would like to drive to the point of one of the most important tool of healing, meditation. So many people in the world we find ourselves today think meditation is about clearing the mind. How does you think guided meditation as a inner retriever shifts the purpose from emptying the mind to actually listening to what's been buried deep inside, Mrs. Marilyn?
So that is a good question. I love that you asked that to me, Topi. Thank you. Our spiritual journey, I noticed that people tend to utilize that in a way that can either help us grow or it can be a way to run away from problems. And so when we go into, and there's nothing wrong with coping, there's nothing wrong with finding comfort, that is needed. So sometimes there's meditation where we just want to empty the thoughts and try to get into the experience of living and just being. And that's okay too. And then there's my type of meditation. What I'm doing in this process is we're going in and we're activating you. We're actually triggering you. And we do that because we want to try to find relief. Because the fact is, if we were only doing the type of meditation where we're emptying the mind, then we will subconsciously, our needs that are not being met through our trauma, we will subconsciously manifest these things like disease or bad relationships over and over again. And we won't understand why, because there's a lot of answers there in the subconscious. So when I go into somebody's trigger and go in, they're re-experiencing what they're telling me is was this real painful memory, and even feeling the body of, if I ask you to feel the body and ask you to tell me what pain you're feeling, that's a memory. Actually, people don't realize it. But when I have you do that, we're going to go in and we're going to try to fix it. So we're either going to try to fix it if that's what it's called for, or maybe fixing is just sitting with it and accepting it. Maybe that's not what the right word is, fixing. Maybe it's allowing it to be what it is. And through that non resistance, we can come to a place of acceptance. And then it doesn't hurt as much anymore. We come to, it's a lot more different energy than somebody fighting the pain and saying, no, no, no. So what we do is we're coming to a place where we're going to find resolution. And that's a big different energy, that big difference compared to something like somebody who's emptying the mind.
I sincerely appreciate the beautiful insight. It shows that meditation are great. There are several ways we can meditate, But there are also ways we can bring out the trigger, which is very important, and activate that area where the pain is being done. And you said something very beautiful as well. Telling one story, when I'm saying my personal experience to you, I am actually bringing a reflection. I am bringing out those memories, those things that really hurt, and it can give the area where the person who is in charge to know where to strike and also work on for us to actually heal and also be more stronger in that area, because despite that situation we are facing, it always drive in a weakness that we have to work on, which is very beautiful on what the process does as well. I would like to drive to the area where things are left behind, because whether we like it or not, in this life that we find ourselves, we will always face some painful experience. And this painful experience could left some parts of us. It could be someone that is very close to us or other areas. So why do you think part of us really gets left behind during painful experiences? And how do you think guided meditation help reunite those parts with the present self, Mrs. Marilyn?
Yes, Tamito, but you were asking all the right questions. So I'm so pleased with that. That's a great question. How do parts of ourselves get left behind? Well, I'll tell you. When we go through a trauma, and it could be something so simple and normal, like weaning. Everybody was weaned eventually, either traumatically or, and most of us were weaned very traumatically, actually, because we didn't have any say in it. It was up to the mother, right? So let's use that as an example. Um, let's say when, and you don't remember that. That's the thing, but psychology, they even admit that our most informative years are before age 2, before we develop memory. But what you remember in you cognitively is different than what your body remembers. So, let's say that you were breastfed, and up to a certain point, your mom said, I had enough. I'm done breastfeeding for whatever reason, like we all have experienced. And she takes away that comfort, that bonding, that really deep bonding experience between the mother and baby. And she gives you the bottle, the formula, which is just not as good. Okay. And so through that process, you were just left to accept it, and you may be completely confused. And just like most babies, what do we do when we are disempowered? Because there is no power, you're completely at the whims of your parent. You cry, you act out, you may fuss, and you may be what we call a bad baby. Well, unfortunately, a lot of parents do things like cry it out method, or leave them in the crib and just let them cry. And through that very painful process, you can develop trust issues, for one, because you don't trust that your needs are going to get met. And you learn through the world that your needs are not going to get met. And so you have a part inside your mind that splits through that psychological process. So the part of you that's very vulnerable and needs your needs to be met is one part. And then there's a part of you that needs to just accept and be strong. And maybe they get their needs met by being a good baby. They learn that they are shameful for getting for crying. Maybe they get shamed for crying, and even more ignored. So they learn that they cannot cry. They cannot ask for their needs to be met. So that part of you gets left behind. And you go through and, oh, I'm learning that I get my needs met by acquiescing or doing exactly what I'm told, or being a good baby. Whatever it is, you'll go through life with that pattern and that learned behavior, and you don't even realize it, but it was something that was trained in you from a very young age. And then you learn, and you go through, and you're like, you cannot trust that your needs will be met, and you cannot even ask for it to be met, because then you have the shame. That's a very common thing, unfortunately. So what I do, excuse me, what I do is I'll go through and I will go back with the person that we find the trigger, and we do that by going into the body, actually, and meditating on what it is that's calling out to you in your body. And when we focus on it, my job is to just help you stay in it. And then something will come up and you'll say, maybe it's something before memory, but you'll feel like, I have so much shame, for example. Okay, tell me what it feels like. What does shame actually feel like, is what I'll say. And they'll tell me, I feel like I don't have my needs met. Like, I just feel like I can't get what I want in life. So we will say, well, how old do you feel? Do you feel like you're a toddler? Do you feel, and this is a very easy question. You'd think that it's hard, but it actually comes very easily to people. They can say, they can usually pinpoint their age. They can at least say, well, I feel like child, like a school age, or I feel like I'm really young, like a baby. And sometimes people even say, I feel like I'm a fetus. I feel like I'm completely at the whims inside, and there's people outside. Or they'll say, I feel like there's arguing there. There's so much interesting things how the body remembers. So the body really does keep the score. So we'll go back in and say, what is it that you need? I need somebody to feed me. I feel like I just need somebody to feed me, and I want that close comfort with my mother. And I'll walk through. This is a very common memory. Actually, I walk people through breastfeeding. Cognitively, it connects. Somatically, it connects with their body. I try to get them really in the moment where you're actually feeling the warmth of your mother. You're actually feeling your tummy fill up with the best nutrients that anything better than any formula. And they just, a sense of content comes over their face during that meditation, and their breathing slows down usually, and they'll just look so at peace. And that's how I know it's working, when I watch for cues like that. So through that, we're retrieving a part of ourselves, and we're reconnecting with that part of ourselves. And when we do that, we won't lose them again.
I sincerely
So
appreciate beautiful insights, Mrs. Marilyn. Honestly speaking, we do know we can't be perfect in life as humans. We will always have ups and downs, we will always have pain. But there are some things, as you said, that are from the roots, from our childhood, from the background we've come from. It has been part of us and it has made us develop some kind of character. When we are young, it is more easier for us to have this kind of emotion. But when we get to the state of maturity, it sticks. And that is where the issue is. Now, for us to deal with those situations when it has already stick to the state of maturity, where we've seen it as a norms, we have to look for ways we can try our best to also deal with it so that we won't find life more traumatizing or more in pressure as well. We find life more embracing and more welcoming as well. The issue of trust or any other things that we do know that has been part of us from childhood from background, we can try our best to rectify it with some certain process, as you said earlier, that will help us improve and also grow and also become more better and also heal as well. But I would also like to drive to the point of inward, because in the life that we find ourselves, a lot of people could be in the position that will say, when I want to go inward, there are a lot of things that comes in, and that is where the fear is. Despite the kind of life they've passed through and where they've gotten to, they are not ready to say, "Let me sit down and actually bring this memory back." So many people fear going inward because they worry they will uncover something that is very, very overwhelming. How do you think the guided meditation can be used to build trust with the nervous system over time, Mrs. Marilyn?
yes, so you mentioned going inward, and people have problems with that a lot of
Yeah,
times. Um, and usually when that occurs, we have a protector part, to be be honest. We all have protector parts. And what I'm when I mentioned, remember when I mentioned that baby back there that was weaned too abruptly and lost
yeah,
connection with the mother. Well, the other part of us that came forth, that's a protector part, because they are really protecting, and protector parts can be protective of that part that they're hiding, or it can be really mean to that part that we're hiding. It all depends, and it's very interesting. um, but really what happens during it, if you're having trouble with going inward and you don't want to see what's inside, there's a protector part. that says this is too painful. We cannot go back. And usually when they interrupt, the most common one I see is a disassociative type, and that can manifest in different ways. Sometimes people just go off and they're lost in another world and they're not connecting with their body and they have trouble connecting with the pain. They're off in another world. I don't know. Or sometimes they just go numb.
Yeah.
I'll have people say, I feel numb. And this is what I'm doing during the meditation. We're starting from the bottom up. We're starting in the body first. So our very first thing to start first is, what do you feel physically? Tell me what you're feeling when you talk about this trigger, and it's a recent trigger that comes up, always connected to the past. It always is, because your body will manifest it. Your body will, or your subconscious will manifest it rather, but it'll show up in the body. That's where it is. So we start out in the bottom, and I say, tell me what you're feeling. And usually it's somewhere in the middle. That's where a lot of our nerves are, our center, our chakras are right there. And they'll say, I feel like someone's choking my throat. That's a really common one too. And that usually is tied to not being able to speak your truth. So when you can't even get to those feelings, like you can't, I'm usually pretty good with starting, but sometimes there's a distraction that comes up, and that's very common too. Sometimes I'll see people that tell me, I'm having a really hard time with believing you. I cannot believe anything that you're doing. I don't think this will work. And there is a part of them, that's not the whole part of them, but there's a part of them that doesn't believe that what we're doing is working because they've been let down so much in the past. And that real cynical or skeptical part can be a real true lifesaver for them. And I work with those parts. So how I handle it is I talk to them and say, well, tell me what it is that you're feeling and why you're feeling that. And just tell me more. What do you want more than anything? So I talk to that part of them as if it's another person in the whole picture, because they are almost different people. We all have different personalities, almost like
Yes.
we all have multiple personality. But I'll talk to that part of them and we'll figure out something. We'll usually figure out what it is they're fearing the most. And that's a good indicator of why it is they don't want to go inward. It's usually because it's too painful, or I've been blocking this. I'm afraid. There's a lot of fear sometimes. Like if I'm my true self, then I can be let down, or I'll be made fun of. I'll be ostracized. I'll lose my family. There's so many different reasons that can come up. And so I can usually negotiate with those parts and say, hey, if you're really feeling like this isn't going to work, why don't we talk about what is working for you? And they'll say something like, well, what's working for me is just keeping my mouth shut and holding it all in. And I'll usually have an example of how that's not working for them. Because if they're coming to see me, they're usually in a lot of pain. There's something really not working for them. So that's usually easy to find. So you'll see the wheels come over, and I'll say, well, what I want is for you to not have any pain either. I don't want you to have any pain, but the truth is you're in pain. It's just being stuffed down and hidden. I can't even get through. It's really like playing a mental chess game with these parts, and they'll see that I'm on their side because I don't want them to be in pain. I'm not trying to push away any part. It's accepting every part. That's so important. And when that goes through and we have that conversation, all of a sudden I'll notice they'll start saying, "Oh, I'm feeling it now." I'll know that it'll just like that part will just step back quietly, and then they'll say, "I'm feeling it now. I feel like my throat's closing off," or, we can get somewhere. We can go into the body. So that is very, very good question.
I sincerely appreciate that insight, Mrs. Marilyn. Despite the example you also brought in when it comes to the power of meditation and also areas that we can use to build ourselves in one way or the other, really helps the nervous system and also help us to also grow and also become more better in regards to a lot of areas for us to become more better as well. And also, Mrs. Marilyn, I would like to drive to the point of music or breath or voice, because music also plays a role, and also breath work, and also other areas as well. How do you think integrating music, right, or voice during meditation supports the emotional regulation and also deeper access to memory and meaning, Mrs. Marilyn?
Yes, so music is very powerful. I actually use music a lot during my somatic breath work.
Mm.
And so that is like a second facilitator. I'm a breathwork facilitator. And what that means is I guide people through a process. And what happens is they they end up going in deeper with the music. So it's usually binaural beats or some kind of very tribal bassy music. There's something about that deep bass that helps the body open up and release, and just it's almost cleansing. So I really like deep bass, tribal, techno type music with little words, because words can really introduce other ideas, and I want the person to just feel clean and like they're giving whatever it is that's inside them, not what the music is trying to give them. So it's really an assistive.
Completely agree with you, Mrs. Marilyn. It shows the beauty that despite having music or also tone or also other areas in life, other things can also be connected, which you are doing, which is the area of the process when it comes to the practitioner as well, that help to heal the sense and also make us to understand the background, what is actually going wrong. Because despite us as humans, there are always issues that comes up, and those issues from the old pattern or from our childhood, there would be ways we can 100% deal with the situation as well. And I also want to use this opportunity to thank you for the insight in regards to this process that you've done, which really helps because despite we are on live, we always have a lot of past background or situations that come in our life, and we have to try our best to look for ways we can actually deal with the situation. And also, Mrs. Marilyn, there is a question Anamali asked during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mrs. Marilyn, what do you think that thing would be, Mrs. Marilyn?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I was just talking about that with my son the other day. We have no ritual coming of age thing, and I live in the United States. So it really isn't as prevalent. We have these kids that are being raised to come into the world, and they have so many distractions like the screens and technology that distract them from being connected with nature, which I think is so important in just being a part of this world and learning about how to get around and how to interact and be present with our heart with one another. So I was just talking with my son about who he is 14, and I was saying if we were back in tribal times, you'd be, instead of going to school, learning how to hunt with your dad and going through nature that way, and how to bring home food to the community and care with one another. And that's what I would bring back, especially with men, because I notice as a mom of two boys that it's really lacking in our modern society is the connection with men to one another. And if we don't have strong men, we really will not have a strong society. We won't. It starts with the strength of the men to be able to keep the family safe. And so if I could bring back one thing that would benefit everybody in this world, it would be a healthy masculine containment that respects the feminine, and that would be so much better than what we're doing now. So I think people are starting to realize that. I wish that there was more groups for men to talk with one another and bond in a healthy way, and that kind of thing that we just don't have in modern society, where we're more connected with one another. So Thank you for asking that question. That was great. And thank you for all your questions. They were wonderful and very insightful and very smart. So I really appreciate it.
That is the beauty of what we are doing out there, and also the beauty of what you are doing as well, making the world a better place. Despite the ups and downs, despite how the world is being damaged now, we do know that there is still hope. And what we are doing are also a sense of hope for the greatness of the next generations to come. And you said it all. I have to be honest with you, community is something that we do lack, and also most especially within men. Men are really more, they will say women are more social. Women are still more of outgoing, but men find it more difficult in some areas as well. So finding ways to discuss and actually communicate and give the sense of community with people is really helpful, and it's something that we do hope comes back in the coming future, because as you said, we need strong men that really respect the feminine as well, and we need men who are ready to actually connect and also see the vision, not those that are really weak, and also a lot of things that goes behind it. We want something that is more stronger, because that is the base point. And Mrs. Marilyn, I want to use this opportunity to thank you for the time on speaking on this important discussion, because every single one of us in this life have a very huge personality that we do hold, despite probably from our childhood or from our mid age or from the maturity state. And for us to look for processes that can help us deal with the situation is very, very essential, most especially in our time today. Thank you so much, Mrs. Marilyn.
Thank you. And I look forward to listening to you.
All right. Have a wonderful day, Mrs. Marilyn. Bye bye.
Bye bye now.